What's up, guys? My name is Austin Abeyta. I got second place with my team, and I played Alt Brave. So with this deck, we'll go ahead and start with the deck itself. I played four of the Higher Deity Alt. This would be your main Vanguard as of right now for the Grade 3. Its early game rush to call out a Brave unit when you Soul Blast a Brave unit is very powerful into getting other pieces into it. And also, having it as a rear guard helps out too. If you're Brave and also have a Brave Vanguard, it gets plus 5,000 and extra critical. So this will be your main one that you want to ride into, or possibly call out as a Vanguard, or a rear guard, sorry. My alternate Grade 3 is Knight of Heavenly Decree. I usually don't want to ride into this. The point of having this in the deck is for the starter to search it out and put it into the soul, because it does have the Brave ability. So it can be used to called out from this alt mile or Fides or any other stride that calls out a Brave unit. You do not really want to ride into them though. For Grade 2s, I run 4 Live Rope. This is one of the key Grade 2s that you have. It is non-GB, but you do have to have a Vanguard with Alt Mile. You counterblast 1 on attack if you're Brave. You call out another Grade 2 Brave unit that is not himself. And also he helps out against domination plays, because your opponent has to have a Vanguard with the Brave ability in order for this unit to attack. So if they renate you, you can call this out from your hand and it cannot attack you, your Vanguard, because their Vanguard does not have the Brave ability. But yes, this comes in very handy early game for the early game calling. My other Grade 2 is Suleiman. Now, you still play this card just because it calls out mid-attack. It's also a 12k attacker, which can help out just to poke your opponent when you go into fights. And it calls out another unit for a -1 card, which puts you in a better state of Brave, and gives an additional +2 to the unit you call. Another Grade 2 that I run, which is also very good for early rush, is Sepgul. So this unit, when it's placed on Vanguard or Rear Guard Circle, you reveal an Alt Mile from your hand, and you Soul Blast 1. It doesn't have to be a Brave unit, it could be any unit. And then you search your deck for a 7k Brave unit and call it to Rear Guard. Its second ability is a GB ability. If you're Brave, it gets +2, so it's an 11k attacker. This is good for your early rush to call out basically an entire field of Grade 1s, or possibly a Grade 2 that's a 7k. My last Grade 2 of the deck is Big Sword Angel. Now this is the alternate 7k Grade 2 that I had in my deck to call out with Sepgul. This unit is actually a very beefy unit if you play the deck correctly against your opponent. It's 7k that gets plus GB, Brave, it gets +5 for every card more that your opponent has than you. So say if you call it out with Suleiman and you ditch a card that boosts it up a little bit more, and it's an auto, so when it attacks, it's not continuous, so it won't decrease the more your opponent guards. So it's as soon as it attacks, how many cards your opponent has, that's how much power it's going to get. So itself can possibly get, depending on your opponent, like up to the 50s by itself. I only run 3 because you can search out every once in a while. Now for my Grade 1s, I run 4 Felix. Now this card is one of the biggest key cards in your deck, mainly because it's an 8k vanilla and has resist, as long as you have Vanguard with Brave ability. The second skill is GB2, I believe. Yeah, GB2, Brave. If you have a Brave if it is Brave, during my turn, if I have Vanguard with Alt Mile, it gives the entire front row +2k and a critical, or not critical, sorry, +2k and resist. So if you have multiples of these can stack up, giving your front row a total of up to +6 if you have 3 in the back row. It also helps out against like gear plays and Kaguro plays, so they don't disrupt your combos or anything like that. My other Grade 1 is Knight of Favorable Odds. This guy is also part of your key rush to rush early. It is also a 7k, which can be called out with Sepgul. It's on place on Rear Guard Circle only. Reveal Alt Mile from your hand, counterblast 1, and search your deck for a 7k Brave unit and call it to Rear Guard. So it can call it can't call it stuff out, but you can call anything else out that's a 7k in order to set up field very early. It also has a GB1 Brave ability to be a 9K, just permanent power as long as you're Brave. It's not when it attacks at all. And my last grade 1 is Yumi. So this card basically assures if you're Brave, it's non-GB. You just retire it as long as you're Brave at the beginning of your ride phase, that you retire it and stride onto any stride you want. Now, that's the end of my grade 1s. As many of you have seen, I do not run Perfect Guards. Perfect Guards at this point kind of clunk up the deck, and it just takes up room that you would need for your Brave pieces that you need. Now, for my triggers, for the G-Guard heal trigger, so this is your main source of basically countercharging. That's pretty much all you have to countercharge with. You don't really use the Soul Charge unless you really need it with Alt Miles' Soul Blast ability. But yeah, it's mainly your biggest source of countercharging if you need it. Now I run 4 of these crits, the Brave crits. Now this crit's good because it's a non-GB Brave ability to go and push into the Soul and give +5, which also fuels Alt Miles' Soul Blast ability to Soul Blast a Brave unit out. And then I also run an additional 4 crits, so a total of 8 crit in the deck. And this is the one that just goes into Soul +3, and that +3 can actually benefit you in a lot of ways. That 10K can give a +3, or like certain cards that you fight against, this little bit can push to a number that they need to overguard on. And it's also fuel for Sepgal to Soul Blast, because he does not need to Soul Blast the Brave unit. Then I run 2 of the Mighty Cerugals. These are just stand triggers. The reason I run stand triggers in the deck is just to get multiple attacks off because of Fides, and Fides' ability to your opponent has to constantly overguard on your Brave attacks, and just to get the stands in, and these are stands that also go back into the deck. Along with that, I run 2 other stands. Encourage Angel. These are stands that also go back into the deck. They give an extra little power bump of +3,000 to 2 units, and then after she does that, she just goes straight back into the deck and shuffles. So that's another stand back in your deck. And the last card I run is the starter, Milius. Now this card is actually very useful for the deck, mainly because it pops out the field early if it hits, and if it does hit, you get to search the top 10 cards of your deck for 2 cards with Alt Miles' name. 1 goes into your hand, 1 goes to your soul. If only 1 was revealed, it goes straight to your hand, and it's up to, so you don't have to put any of them into your hand. You can just use it to shuffle or just get it off the board. But this does help you get out of grade lock pretty fast. Now for my G-Zone. So I run 3 Fides, the newer Fides. This card is basically almost pretty much the only stride you go into on the deck. It's a counterblast 1, flip up anything. For each one of your Brave attacks, your opponent has to put down 2 Guardians, or else the attack will hit regardless of its power. But PGs do work against it. The only bad thing about it, which kind of makes it fair, is that it's GB4 for its second attack, which when it attacks, if I'm Brave, I call out 3 extra units, which gives me that much more attacks to go into to help push out attacks and try to finish out the game early. Then I run 4 Luminous Hope. So I run 4 of these. Usually 1 or 2 are just a flip with Fides, and then use the other one just to get the power bumps of +30 off the 3 face up, or get an extra crit. Usually I had these in case of a Link Joker or Chaos matchup, just because if they lock my field, I at least have this out to get a crit and a bunch of power to hit hard for. But other than that, I went into it maybe like once during the tournament. My next card is 2 Blazing Sword Fides. Now this card I put in only for a time when I needed to get a certain card off the field just because it can retire, or if I needed to call out something which I really don't with the new cards that are out. So mainly this was only to retire a card, which I actually never went into during the tournament. Then I run 1 Brave Lancer. Now again, I never really went into this card. I may have went into it once, but it's a counterblast 1 when it attacks. If I'm Brave, Or no, not when it's brave. Counterblast when it attacks. A superior call 3 units with the brave ability, and then if 3 units are called, I did discard that many cards from my hand. If none were in my hand, I do not have to pay the cost. And then its brave ability is anytime a unit attacks, it gets plus 3,000 as long as I'm brave. Then I run 1 Zeroth Dragon Zenith Peak. This guy just basically ensures how every other Royal Paladin would do. You put the crit and then a stand at the top of the deck, and then anything else you want to call out. Again, I didn't go into this at all during the tournament. I never saw the chance to, or even needed to, but it was always good just to have it in the deck. Now for G-Guards, I run 1 Air Elemental. Now this was just to push out cards from my deck in case I got like a grade 1 and I didn't need it. I can throw this down, switch it out for hopefully get like a 10k or even a heal trigger into my hand, or pieces that I need for a stride next turn. So only ran 1. Next card I ran was Defend Hold Dragon. I ran only 2. These are basically the perfect guards that you need in the deck. So when you do this, if you're brave and you place it in the Guardian Circle, you choose a Vanguard that's being attacked that has a brave ability, and as long as your opponent's Vanguard is attacking, the attack will not hit. So it's basically a perfect guard. And then lastly, I run 2 Ingrains. This card is on place. If I have a Vanguard with the All-Mail in its card name, I Soul Blast 1 card and it gets plus 10k shield. And then if it's brave, it gets an additional plus 5. So by itself, it will make it a 41k base. And that's pretty much all I have for my deck profile today.